Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with some more very cool figures. In fact, we almost have a small army here. Not just one species, we have two species, and what's cool is when you actually buy these from Dinomikemak, you get them in a similar number to this. Not quite, because what we see here is we've got three Microceratus here on the right, but you also have three Compsognathus here to the left. When you buy the compies, you actually get 6, I believe, and then you get 3 for the Microceratus. Now, just like with the Ornithomimus, all of these figures came unpainted. I went ahead and painted them up myself. I tried to give them basically the Jurassic World look, or in some cases, Lost World Jurassic Park for the compies. But there are actually Microceratus like that have artwork and everything out for, and I tried to base these guys off of that artwork, as best I could considering how small they are. But let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at all 6 of these figures right now. Now, of course, these figures are all the same sculpt. When it comes to the Microceratus, when it comes to the Compsognathus, they are all the same sculpt, and I just went ahead and gave them different paint applications. Some of them are kind of the same. For the most part, a lot of them are the same, but I tried to do very subtle, very minor differences to the figures to kind of differentiate them from each other. But this one is painted up in what I would say is probably in the female colors, because there's a little bit of extra flashiness on the one that makes it a little bit more male, I think. But as you can see, the figure is really quite small. They are definitely small overall. Again, when you see the figure sitting in my hand, it's smaller than your average minifigure, which is actually, again, showing off how impressive the figures are when you look at the overall detailing and everything included within them. They're very impressive considering their small size. Another thing that I really do like about these figures is the fact that they are in almost like a neutral position, and you can kind of see that here with this one. Both legs are in the same positioning overall. The head is straight forward, the tail is straight out. It almost reminds me of the old Toyway Walking with Dinosaurs figures, where they were standing in a neutral position. I often enjoy, of course, dinosaur figures that have a lot of life to them, but I also can enjoy the more stagnant maquette type of a look. You can see that the beak is sculpted out. It's sculpted in an open position. We also have the eyes sculpted out. Of course, we have the frill and everything as well. And again, it all looks really good. Definitely very reminiscent to the way that it looks in the artwork for the Microceratus in the Jurassic franchise. And then as you lead down into the feet, you can see that the feet sport some really nice toes, some nice toenails as well. You've got some nice claws for the dinosaur. Again, the skin texture, although very fine, also looks really good. And again, the very straight out tail for our very small Microceratus. You can see it looks honestly gorgeous from every side. Sculpt-wise, it is an absolutely beautiful version of a Jurassic World style Microceratus. The paintwork probably isn't the best in the world, but I think it turned out pretty decent. And again, considering the size, you're not really going to get the highest quality paint job on it, so I was pretty happy with what I was able to achieve, again, on a figure this small. So that is definitely a very nice Microceratus. Also, another thing, when you remember back to the Ornithomimus review, that figure did have articulation. The Microceratus, nor do the Compsognathus, none of them have articulation. Also, I want to apologize if you see any paint or glue or anything on my fingers. I have been painting stuff like crazy since I returned from vacation, because I just had so much stuff before leaving for vacation that I needed to get done. So I'm in the middle of painting a little bit, then I get a review filmed, and then I paint, and then I get a review filmed, at least on my days off from work anyway. Again, this is another female version, but you'll notice some very subtle differences between the two. Again, I didn't want to make them look like direct clones of each other. I just sort of switched it up. Very little areas of slight difference in coloration. Like this one, I think might be a little bit lighter in the reddish tone of color that we have for the primary body color. So it doesn't look exactly the same overall, but pretty much the same. Of course, it's the same sculpt, just looking again like it is part of the same group of Microceratus. And then we've got what I would say is the male variant, and you'll notice, if my camera would focus on it, the head, boy, it really doesn't want to focus, there we go, the head has some bluish tones to it, and that's something that you see in the artwork that I've seen for the Microceratus from Jurassic World, that again, this version I wanted to capture with that bluish coloration on it. So in my opinion, that would make this one the male, if you ask me. But again, overall the color schemes are pretty similar. I did try to make the reds a bit more darker on this one compared to some of the others, because again, I think that is also something that you see on the artwork again for these. But again, like I said, absolutely gorgeous Microceratus, and considering how cheap they are, they, in my opinion, are a must-have. Now, when it comes to the compies, they are so tiny. Like, you can see how small that compy is there within my hand. Like, I could, yeah, definitely lengthwise, they fit within one finger. You look at that head sculpt within my fingertip, it's pretty crazy. Not too long ago, I had painted up some of the Rod's Random Work compies, and at that time, I would say those were probably the smallest compies I had ever painted. Well, these guys definitely take the cake because they are uber tiny. So that means that, of course, again, my paint apps aren't going to be the greatest in the world, but I felt like they turned out pretty decent considering their size. And again, just like with the Microceratus, again, like the sculpts are honestly incredible on these and show off a lot of really nice fine detail, as well as a very screen accurate looking sculpt. And again, you can see once you get some paintwork on it, if my camera would focus, there we go, once you get some paintwork on it, it really brings the figures to life, and in a nice realistic way, I think. And I also did some very subtle differences with the compies, just like I did with the other one. Like this one, I have kind of more like thicker, more kind of smoother, subtle striping moving along the back. But then when you bring up some of the others, you could see that this is like a little bit darker striping moving along the back, a little more obvious. And it's just really little, very subtle differences, because I don't really see a whole lot of difference between the compies in the films. But you can see, again, just like with the Microceratus, they are kind of standing straight forward in pretty much a neutral position. The mouth is open, the tongue is sticking up in there, and you can even see the teeth, actually. I don't think my camera will focus on it because it has a hard time focusing on things when I get really close, but in hand, once you actually grab yourself a set of these, you will see the teeth are actually present on the figure. But you can see, again, the tail is sticking straight out, nice and long, like you would expect to see for a Jurassic-style compy. And again, I've hopefully captured all of the coloration and very nice tones of colors that you see on the Jurassic Park compies. Just like with the Microceratus as well, all three of these sculpts are the same, and like I said, I believe you get 6 of these if you order them. I only have 3 because I was lucky enough to get early access from Dinomikemak for them, but you can see this one has a little bit more frequent striping and kind of like thinner striping compared to the others. Just really little differences like that I was kind of going for with these figures. But again, when it comes to a very tiny Jurassic Park, or however you want to term it, Jurassic World style compy, these things are awesome. And even though he's so small, he almost looks like just like a little silhouette here. What else is really cool about these compies is, even though you see me kind of often displaying them just leaning back on their tails, they can 100% stand on their own 2 feet with the tail up off of the ground. It doesn't need the tail touching to, support the figure. So that's really cool, and also, again, shows you the incredible balance that Dinomikemak has given these figures. As far as the size, as I said, the compies are tiny. Lengthwise, approaching 2.5 inches, or around 6.5 centimeters, maybe a little bit smaller. Height-wise, we are barely over an inch, or about 2.5 centimeters. So the compies are definitely very small. For the Microceratus, which are a little bit bigger, but also still really quite small, lengthwise you are looking at about, actually they're only a little over 2.25 inches, or around 6 centimeters. So they are shorter than the compies, but they're actually overall smaller than the compies in general, because they are under an inch. I would say at like 3/4, I would say, of an inch or so, and a little over 2 centimeters. So they're very small. They just have more body mass, and I don't know that my camera focused on any of that because the figure is so small. But for a size comparison, to further give you an idea of the size of these, There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Paleo Revived figures. And you can see that when it comes to these species, they are all very small, tiny figures, but also absolutely epic figures, and they'll definitely fit in very nicely with the Mattel Jurassic World line, which is really fun as well. To further show you how tiny these guys are, here we have a Toy Monster International mini on the right and a Mattel mini on the left, and you can see these figures are all significantly smaller than you have with your standard minis. Then we've also got a Mattel Compsognathus here standing in front of the Dinomikemak Paleo Revived versions, and you also have a Mattel Microceratus, because yes, Mattel did actually release that species at one point in the Destructosaurs line. Mine is repainted though, it originally came with no color on it at all. But you can get a pretty good idea of the size of all of these figures here next to the Mattel versions. And then we're not really focusing on the Microceratus here, because you can see, even though it's not exactly focused back there, we actually have the Rod's Random Work Compsognathus next to the Paleo Revived version, just to give you one more idea of how small these guys are. When I said that the Paleo Revived versions are very small, this definitely should help to show you that. So these brand new Paleo Revived Jurassic Park style Compsognathus and Microceratus figures are honestly phenomenal. Like, Dinomikemak has been doing such a great job on this line, and I love the fact that not only does he give us larger species, he also gives us articulated versions, and of course very small species like this that you often would see get overlooked, like the Microceratus and Compsognathus. And yet again, I think he's done such an excellent job of capturing the overall likeness of these figures, of these species, and bringing them to life in very small figure form, and again allowing them to pretty much sit right there in the size range for the Mattel line that you would probably expect to see. And also making them just look so good when they stand in with the Mattel figures. They really feel like they belong. What else is really cool is the fact that these guys are actually pretty darn cheap. You know, normally for a custom sculpted figure and printed out figure, you'll pay a decent price even for figures this small. But the price range from Dinomikemak for the Compsognathus, you can get 6 of them for $6, and the Microceratus, 3 of them for $6. So, you know, $12 and you've got yourself a horde of little tiny dinosaurs to add to your collection. And again, the fact that they are so incredibly beautiful and so accurate when it comes to what you see in the Jurassic franchise makes them, in my opinion, a no-brainer. But as I said, they do come unpainted. I went ahead and painted mine. Hopefully the paint jobs on mine turned out okay. Hopefully you guys like them. It is sometimes a bit of a challenge to make the paint jobs of small figures like this look high quality, look really good. So hopefully I achieved at least a decent looking paint job on these guys. You'll have to let me know in the comments section. But as I said, this line is shaping up to be one of the most fun lines out there currently, and I have so many more figures already from just the first wave that I cannot wait to bring to you guys in more reviews. So in the comments section, let me know what you guys think of these. If you're going to be picking some of them up, again, I absolutely recommend it. I will include a link in the description to where you can do that, of course, from Dinomikemak. So make sure you check that link. Make sure you grab yourself some of these awesome figures, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.